Hi everyone, welcome back to Red Pen Revision. Today's lesson we're going to be learning about the adaptations of a leaf, and we're going to be applying this knowledge to some past paper questions as well. So adaptations then, what does this mean? It's basically how an organism such as a leaf adapts to survival. It's all to do with surviving the environment that organism, that living thing is in. So if we look at a leaf under a microscope, if we were to just get a standard leaf from outside and we were to use a light microscope, you may have actually used one of these before at school, we would actually be able to see the structure of that leaf in quite a lot of detail. So this is what it would look like. This is what you may see. As you can see, there's lots of things going on here. So let's break it down step by step. So at the top of the leaf, we have a structure called the waxy cuticle. And the waxy cuticle, its main job is to prevent water loss. And that's really important because the leaf itself wants to retain quite a bit of water because it needs that water for photosynthesis. If you remember from our previous lesson, carbon dioxide and water reacts to make glucose and oxygen, and that's the whole point of why leaves are even part of a plant. If you need some revision on that, I can link that video as well. So water loss, a nice scientific word for that, we call this transpiration. This is a process where water is lost from the leaf, and the waxy cuticle layer prevents that from happening. You've got another layer at the top of the leaf, and this is called our palisade layer. Our palisade layer contains lots and lots of, you may have seen a regular plant cell that looks like this, and we usually show a palisade cell as a typical example of a plant cell, but there's obviously lots more than just the palisade cell. The reason this palisade layer is really important is because it contains lots of chloroplasts, which contain the green chemical chlorophyll. And it's this green chemical actually absorbs the sunlight from the sun. So that's why you have the palisade layer at the very top of the leaf. So it can, all that sunlight energy can actually go and be absorbed by the chlorophyll in the chloroplasts. Okay, then we move down and we have this layer. This is quite a big layer. And this is what we call the spongy mesophyll. So the spongy mesophyll layer. And the spongy mesophyll is a really important layer because, as you may imagine, the word spongy, if you think of a sponge, it has lots of little holes in there. So lots of air spaces, okay, and also air spaces in between. And that's really important for gas exchange. Okay, and what do I mean by gas exchange? Well, if we think of our equation for photosynthesis, we've got carbon dioxide and water, and they react to make glucose, our sugar, which is what the plant needs for various things such as proteins and starch for storage, and oxygen. Okay, so if this is our really important photosynthesis equation, right? Gas exchange, we're of course talking about carbon dioxide and oxygen. There are two gases in that equation. So during photosynthesis, which happens in the palisade layer, carbon dioxide is used. So carbon dioxide is going to go into the leaf and it goes to that chloroplast, that chlorophyll area. Okay. And that's where photosynthesis takes place. Once that carbon dioxide reacts with the water, it produces glucose and oxygen is released. So that oxygen can't stay in the leaf, it has to come back out. So that's what we mean by gas exchange. We're exchanging carbon dioxide for oxygen. That's what that means there. Okay, so we've spoken about gas exchange, and I've drawn my arrows through this little gateway hole here. So let's talk about this final layer. We have two little squares which both represent guard cells. And you can actually think of a guard cell as something that protects and guards the opening of a leaf. Okay, and guard cells are really important because they tend to open the stomata during the day when there's lots and lots of sunlight, and they actually close the stomata at night when the sun isn't really around, and therefore photosynthesis will not actually take place or occur. So they usually close the stomata if the air is dry or hot, and this prevents water loss from occurring, and that means, transpiration. So guard cells are really important. They actually allow the gas exchange to occur. It's like the gateway, the door into the leaf. Now, this hole in itself, this door, this actual gap in between, we call this the stomata. And the stomata is just the pore of the leaf or a hole. So a lot of the time students mix the stomata up with the guard cells. Just remember, the guard cells can actually open and close the stomata. The stomata is just the hole that allows gas in and out. Okay, so let's have a go at some past paper questions. Pause now to have a go on your own. Okay, now you've unpaused, let's have a go at these questions. So it says, draw one line from each level of organisation to the correct part of the plant. So this is a really important past paper question, which I wanted to mention. Sometimes they'll give you these types of questions where you have to really think about, well, what's it going to be? So we've got an organ and we've got a tissue, and I've not mentioned which is which. So it's really important that we know that an organ, in this case, the leaf is the organ, because a leaf contains lots of cells and tissues. As we mentioned before, the spongy mesophyll is a type of tissue, the palisade layer is a type of tissue, because there's lots and lots of cells that make up the spongy mesophyll layer and the palisade layer allow it to work in the way it does. So in this case, the organ of a plant is the leaf, and the tissue is going to be the spongy mesophyll, because there is more than one cell here that works to provide the spongy mesophyll layer. Root hair cells, this is a cell. Okay, root hair cells are found in the roots and they absorb water. A vacuole is actually found in the palisade layer of plant cells, and this is an organelle. And the xylem is used to transport water. Now, you may have heard of another type of vessel, and this would be the phloem. The phloem transports glucose up and down the plant. Transport of water through the xylem is in one direction only. It's important that we know that. One direction, this is in two directions. It can go up and down. And that's because sometimes we need glucose to go below where the leaf is, down to the roots, or it needs to go up above where the leaf is. So imagine that's our xylem and phloem split into two in the stem, found in the stem, and you've got a leaf like this. Glucose can go out into the phloem and it can go up the plant or down the plant. However, water can only go in one direction, that's usually up, okay, from the root up to the leaf. Okay, so next question. Cells in plant roots do not photosynthesize. Give one reason. Well, roots, they're not going to be needing to photosynthesize anyway because they're underground. They're not going to be able to absorb any light. But the reason they do not photosynthesize is because they don't contain chlorophyll / chloroplasts. That's the key point to make here. If they don't contain chlorophyll, if they don't contain chloroplasts, that means that they can't even photosynthesize if we pull the roots up from that particular area that it's grounded in. Okay, next question. Pause the video to have a go on your own. Okay, let's go through. So it says, in this question, you will be assessed on the use of good English, organising information clearly, and the using of specialist terms where appropriate. Describe the structure of the leaf and the functions of the tissues in the leaf. You should use the names of the tissues in your answer. This question is worth 6 marks, by the way. So What I would recommend you do in this case is notice they're asking you to talk about the structure and function. Both right there is worth 2 marks. And we know we need an answer that is going to equate to 6 marks. So you really need to say about 3 points or 3 cells or layers, okay? So in this case, what I would do, because they're talking about information is clearly organised, I would bullet point, but obviously write in good English and make sure that you're talking in continuous prose. But bullet points are good to organise your information. So you could talk from top to bottom, that's quite a nice idea. You could even go about labelling sections of the plant diagram. So you could do number 1, we could talk about the waxy cuticle, and you could say talk about transpiration. Of course, I'm writing in shorthand, but I would definitely recommend writing out this sentence. Say, the waxy cuticle prevents water loss from the leaf, and that would be through the process of transpiration. You could then go on to say about the palisade layer and explain that these cells have lots of chloroplasts, and that's why it's at the top, why you need that for photosynthesis. You could even go on to speak about the spongy mesophyll and say mesophyll, there we go. You could talk about the spongy mesophyll and talk about gas exchange, and you could then even talk, this would give us enough for this answer, but if you wanted to really go that extra mile, you could talk about the guard cells and also the stomata, and that might be a nice way to finish off this paragraph that you'd write by linking gas exchange to the stomata, and you could talk about carbon dioxide and oxygen. And I think it would even be worth writing out the equation photosynthesis in this case to help you explain that. But that's the way I would answer this question, and I hope that was helpful to you. Have a great day. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you found this useful. Thank you.